In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus Christ confronted the crowds about the traditional rules that they had been following in order to teach them some new principles for his followers to live by. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Monday. We very often revert to the protocol of society around us when it comes to following certain rules within a community setting. I mean, we would never see those problems in our actions were it not for the Word of God pointing it out. So while Jesus spoke to his followers on such things as lust or hatred or even vengeance, he also dealt with their actions about showing love to others in a Christ-like manner. In Matthew 5:43, Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.'" Well, probably no one in their right mind ever said, we should hate our enemies. Perhaps that's an unwritten, maybe even an unspoken rule for living in our society today. But even though we have not spoken those words or actually admit to feeling that way, we do understand exactly what Jesus is expressing by his statement here. Perhaps we really need to delve into who is considered our enemy or why that one has been given such a dubious distinction. You know, it seems by all accounts, especially by action-packed movies that we watch, that the Russians are our enemy. But just take a moment to ponder who we might consider is our enemy and why that is. He says in Matthew 5:44, "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." There are 4 action words here for us to follow in our dealings with those who are not considered our best friends anyway. First of all, he says to love your enemies. Now, I'm certain that we will find when we change our passion from hate to love, we may find that they're suddenly not our enemies after all. For those Jews who had an inherent hatred for Gentiles, they even called them dogs. It meant that we now have to consider a moral love, which calls for a desire for good for those around us. Then Jesus said, bless those who curse you. Or for those who speak evil of us or speak evil to us, we need to return that feeling and that action with a blessing, maybe by applauding them or by speaking kindly to them, or maybe even kindly about them to others. Bless them. The third action, of course, is to do good to those who hate you, which actually calls for action here of a positive nature. Maybe thinking about what nice thing we could do for that someone to show our love and our compassion to them, even though they've not shown that to us. So he said, love and bless and do good. And fourthly, he said, we should pray for those who spitefully use you or persecute you. You know, it doesn't matter what others have done to us. What matters to Christ is how we react or how we treat them. And certainly when we begin to pray for an individual, it changes our whole demeanor. I mean, maybe we see why they've been so unkind to us, or maybe we begin to feel the need, or why they feel the need to persecute us. Praying for someone will call us before God for our negative feelings. It will also change our attitude about another person when we see them as one made in God's image. So the next time we harbor ill feelings against another one, perhaps even considering them as our enemy, let's love them and bless them and do good to them and pray that God will not only change them, but also change us.